again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And we've got a topical show for you today. We're going to talk about the Preakness Stakes coming up on Saturday. Also starting on Saturday, we have the NHL playoffs with the Capitals and the Bruins is the only playoff game on Saturday. But Sunday, a full slate of games. And we're going to talk about the playoff matchups and the series odds for the first round and where you might find some value. And I'll have some playoff picks for you at the end of the program. So not much in motorsports this week. Of course, coming up around Memorial Day weekend, we have the Indy 500 and the Monaco Grand Prix and the World 600 or whatever it's called these days in NASCAR. But that big weekend is still a little bit off. So we'll talk a little bit of horse racing today. But before we do that, let's do what we always do and update my bankroll. And we had the starting bankroll at $212 last week. And we had Lewis Hamilton in the Spanish Grand Prix. Cataluna was a winner, plus $9 to the bankroll. We had him at plus 120. I think he closed at minus 120. Good pick there. Then we had Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick in Darlington, half a unit each. They were both top 5, top 10 cars all day. I think they finished like 4th and 6th or 4th and 7th. But Truex had the best car or the best run, won handily. So minus $7 to the bankroll. I had Eric Jones top 10. He was a top 20 car all day, but he didn't seem to get past about 16th. I feel like outside of restrictor plate races, that's a bet that I'm going to stay away from going forward. His equipment is just not as good as it was when he was with Gibbs, and it seems like the Gibbs team has been the strongest team in NASCAR this season. Penske's had their moments, and Hendricks had their moments, but without having a Gibbs ride, he's not the same performer. So if you do the math, that's a grand total of minus $2 to the bankroll, which makes our new bankroll $210 going forward this week and makes our bet size 7 as we divide by 30. We always do that because we try to remain selective. If going forward, as a beginner to intermediate sports bettor, we don't want to place too many wagers. We're just looking for good value wagers to place. So $7 bet size going forward this week. So let's move right on into the Preakness Stakes. And you can see I have written here smaller field, smaller distance, smaller value. So the race is at Pimlico on Saturday in Maryland. It's a mile and 3/16. Excuse me. It's just a little bit shorter than the Kentucky Derby. And there are only 10 entrants, which kind of surprises me. Obviously, Medina Spirit, the Kentucky Derby winner, is entered. And their entry is actually conditional on testing and other medical evaluations because the horse tested positive for a banned substance post Kentucky Derby win. It's kind of too late for them to really disqualify, in my opinion, the horse. It's happened before. It happened in like 1968 where a horse was disqualified after winning for a banned substance. I don't think that's going to happen here, but there is a possibility that that horse may not run. That would, as the train goes by, that would kill the TV ratings for the Preakness if it was not running for a Triple Crown. And the fact that there's only 10 horses makes me think that they're going to find a way to make sure it runs. But you can see I have the morning line odds posted here, and then I have a number next to each horse, and that is the Bayer speed rating, their best performance. And you can see that Medina Spirit far and away has the best speed rating. And obviously they're the favorite of the field. Concert Tour is the second favorite. Midnight Bourbon is impressive as the third favorite with a 96 speed rating. And then everything falls off a little bit. The France Godina obviously has not raced in North America, so does not have the speed rating. The international horses tend not to do as well in most of these Triple Crown races because a lot of them actually run in the opposite direction. So it's a little no pun intended, it's a little foreign to them. But looking at these odds and looking at these speed ratings and basically not being a thoroughbred expert, once again, if you watched my Kentucky Derby program from a few weeks ago, I recommend using handicapping software to determine a short list of which horses would be worth betting on. But looking at this list and giving heavy value to the speed rating, which I do think is a solid factor in determining which horses are going to be competitive. Crowded Trade really stands out to me at both 10-1 and the 95 speed rating, which is the third best speed rating on the board there. I like the post position of number 4, although post position probably won't make that much of a difference. In order for there to be a big upset here, you're going to need to have a really slow race, just where horses kind of lay back. And I don't think that's going to happen, especially since this race is a shorter distance than the Kentucky Derby. I expect there to be a rabbit or somebody that will try to, literally run away with the race. So that makes me want to count the speed ratings even more, which really that is the one horse that stands out to me as value. Crowded Trade at 10-1. We don't know where it'll be on Saturday. Obviously, it's pari-mutuel odds. These odds will change. And there are horses that may show better form in practice runs between now and then. So we'll have to see where it goes. But right now, that's what I like for the Preakness. And if Medina Spirit does win again and is clean, then we'll head to the Belmont in a few more weeks and try to go for the Triple Crown. Will be one of the more controversial Triple Crowns if it does come to happen with the drug testing issue, because apparently Bob Baffert's actually admitted saying, I may have accidentally given this horse this banned substance, and I'm not even sure what it is. I don't know that much about it, but it's very un-PR friendly for the sport. I'll put it that way. Not, to have your premier top level races be kind of smeared this way. So should be an interesting race. We'll see if that horse is clean, if it can put up the same kind of speed that it put up in the Kentucky Derby. So very interesting race. I'll have my official play for you at the end of the program. So let us move on to the NHL playoffs. And technically, the Saturday is the last day of the regular season, and it's also the first day of the playoffs. The Vancouver Canucks had a big COVID problem, and so they're playing out the rest of their games, even though they're eliminated from playoff competition. So they're playing the Oilers, earlier in the day on Saturday, and then we have Saturday the Capitals and the Bruins are kicking off the playoffs, and then Sunday there's about 4 games, I think. But in the East, we've got the 4-seed Islanders plus 110 versus the number 1 seed Penguins minus 135. And then you've got the 3-seed Bruins minus 155 favorites versus the Capitals plus 125. So there's I think there's some bias in these odds. And I also think there's some value in these odds because of injuries. A lot of teams have rested their players or had them on day-to-day or IR and saving them for the playoffs. And we'll go through a lot of these teams. Let's start with the Islanders and the Penguins. The Islanders are missing Anders Lee. That's going to be a big problem for them. He was their captain. And again, I've talked about their goaltending, Sorokin and Varlamov, and then the Penguins, Tristan Jarry. I like the Penguins in this series. I feel like the Islanders have had trouble scoring. Maybe they will prove me wrong. They were very good in the playoffs the last couple of years. I feel like they're just missing that one piece. They seem to be like a piece short, and I don't know if it's better goaltending or another scoring top six forward. But they seem to be able to be competitive with that Barry Trotz defensive system. But I think they just need that next level scoring to really make them a tough team to beat. The Penguins, again, their health will, going forward through the playoffs, will be a big factor. Letang, Crosby, Malkin have suffered through extensive injuries throughout their careers. Hornquist, Jake Gensel's been injured this year. So they're going to have to stay healthy if they're going to go for a deep playoff run. There's not much separating the top three teams in this division. The Penguins did win the division by a point or two, I think. But the Bruins and the Capitals, I feel like the winner of this series is probably going to come out of the East. And the Bruins get a nod here because they have the best line, the best forward scoring line in the league, the perfection line with Pasternak and Brad Marchand and Bergeron. However, I don't think Tuukka Rask is as good as in years past. If you remember last year, he quit the team during the COVID bubble, and they went out not too long thereafter of the playoffs. He has not really impressed me this year much at all. The Capitals, on the other hand, I think are very undervalued here. Oshie, Kuznetsov, Samsonov have all been out, and they're all expected back for the playoffs. It's one of those things where they're being a little cagey about it, but Samsonov and Kuznetsov were out for COVID protocols, and Oshie had a lower body injury, but the coach said that they should be back for the playoffs. Even if they miss the first game, the Capitals should be very competitive in this series. I feel like the goaltending is pretty even here. The big question is who will stay healthy, and who will be able to shut down the other's top scorers. That Backstrom, Oshie, Ovechkin line. If they go with, they may mix it up and go with Kuznetsov and Ovechkin and a winger. But definitely on the power play, it's Oshie, Backstrom, Ovechkin. Can the Bruins D shut down that line, and can Chara and Carlson shut down the perfection line? We'll have to see. That is definitely the most interesting series to me of the first round. I feel the Capitals, I believe, are 17-1 to win the Cup right now. I feel like that's tremendous value because I feel like if they can win this series, they're probably headed to the Final Four. And at that point, you can hedge that wager for at least some profit or let it ride for the finals. Moving on to the Central Division, you've got the Hurricanes versus the Predators. I feel like this is probably your safest bet of the first round if you're going to bet the series. taking the Hurricanes at minus 240. The Preds, you've got a 35-year-old Pekka Rinne, and he actually was mostly a backup this year to UC Saros. No disrespect to UC Saros. It's just that the team in front of him is not good enough to keep them in this series. They're a playoff caliber team, but the Hurricanes have been a team that has been mostly injury-free and has had above expectation performances from its goaltending. Has had a Norris quality season from Dougie Hamilton. Obviously, their top six forwards have been very productive. I feel like I feel the Hurricanes win this series going away. I feel like that's a very safe bet, and the odds are not, if I was ever going to lay minus 240, that's probably a bet I would make. And then you have a very interesting series between the Lightning and the Panthers. And I believe, you can see the odds there. Lightning minus 143, Panthers plus 116. These teams are very even on paper. The problem is you're going to have your regular season team and your postseason team. And when it comes to the Panthers, you've got to talk about Sergei Bobrovsky, who was very good during the regular season. He's won the Vezina before as a great regular season goalie, but he has struggled in the playoffs. And he's going against Vasilevsky, somebody who's won a Stanley Cup, knows what it takes to get there. That is going to be the main difference between these two teams, unless Florida surprises and puts one of their other goalies in, which I don't think is going to happen. They pay Bobrovsky well to be their number one. But, that's going to be the difference in this series. I feel like Florida is the better offense of the two teams. Lightning have the better defense of the two teams. Lightning have the better goaltending. I give them a slight edge in this series. A Lightning Hurricane series in the finals of the Central would be a very even series, I think, and a Lightning Hurricanes Florida series in the final of the Central, I think would be heavily tilted to the Hurricanes. So if you're looking at futures and whatnot, you might want to consider those matchups. So let's move on to the other two divisions, the Great White North, all the Canadian teams. You've got the Canadians plus 210 versus the Maple Leafs minus 275. The Maple Leafs are one of the three favorites to win the Stanley Cup, and I feel like they're tremendously overvalued. They do have the best goal scorer in Austin Matthews. There's no question about that. The Canadians are a team with a lot of injuries. However, all of their injured players are expected back except for Jonathan Drouin, who is taking a leave of absence from the team for personal reasons. But their forwards, Gallagher and the name escapes me, they have a young center, is going to be back. And everybody else, Carey Price is expected to be back. So Suzuki, Gallagher, all their top players, Toffoli, are all, they've got good experience with players like Corey Perry. I feel like the Canadians gave Toronto a very difficult time this season, and I think the series is going to be competitive. I feel like this is going to be a 6-game series, maybe a 7-game series. I like the value on the Canadians here. Carey Price is going to have to be he's going to come back cold, and he's going to have to be, the quality Carey Price that we've known from years past. You've got Freddie Anderson, who's also back from injury, and then Jack Campbell is the Maple Leafs goaltenders. And I'm not so sure either one of those guys can carry them to the promised land. They could prove me wrong, but I feel like the Leafs are due for their annual playoff swoon. And I feel like there's a lot of value in this division on either the Canadians or the Oilers. The Canadians, I think, are about 30-1 to win the Cup, and the Oilers are about 20-1 to win the Cup, maybe 23-1, depending where you look. We'll talk more about the Oilers in a second, but I'm not sure about the Canadiens going all the way to the Cup final, but I feel like this is a team that matches up very well against the Maple Leafs. So I feel like there's value, at least on the Canadiens winning a couple of games. So maybe if they get a couple of home games in Montreal, maybe that's the time you bet on the Canadiens. But I do like the price on the series for the Canadiens. And then you got the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers. I do want to say about the Maple Leafs that they only scored 77 points in what is the weakest division in the league. There's only 7 teams in the division, so only 3 teams missed the playoffs. And there were some bad teams in this division, and they only got 77 points, so not that impressive in my opinion. But obviously they're loaded with superstars: Tavares, Spezza, Joe Thornton, Matthews, Marner, Nylander. They've got so many great forwards. So moving on to the Jets and the Oilers, the Jets have the best goaltender in the division. Hellebuck is a great goaltender. Is he enough to steal a series against the Oilers? I think probably not. The Oilers have that insane duo of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and they can take over a game. Those two guys can take over a game and win a game for you, and there's not many forwards that can do that in the NHL right now. The big question for the Oilers is Mike Smith and Koskinen going to be enough in their goaltending department? I don't know that. Mike Smith has had some great play. He has had a great playoff run with the Coyotes, went to the conference finals one year. Don't know if he's still 39 years old, if he's still got it in him, but I guess he's their best shot, and they're going to have to count on McDavid to score a lot of goals or set up a lot of goals in order for them to be comfortable going far into the playoffs. But if Edmonton ends up getting the Canadiens in the second round, then obviously there's great value on them going to the Final Four. So finally in the West, you've got I think 4 very good teams. Unfortunately, they've all got to play each other to get out of that division. You've got the 4-seed Blues versus the number 1 seed Avalanche. And the Blues, of course, won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago, the last time they had a regular Stanley Cup playoff. Jordan Binnington is not as hot a goalie as he was back then. He is a good quality starting goalie. The big question is he going to be enough to stop the Avalanche? And the answer is probably not. The Avalanche has too many offensive weapons. They have one of the best defensemen in the league in Cale Makar. And if they have their Grubauer back, if they have Grubauer back in goal, they're going to be very tough to beat. I did not check the goalie injuries for Colorado at the moment, but I think Colorado is currently the favorite to win the Stanley Cup at about plus 450, plus 500. The Golden Knights are not far behind, and then after that are the Maple Leafs. But the Avalanche, to win this series, minus 335, not great odds. I wouldn't lay that. They're substantially favorites to win this series, but it might go 6 games. The Blues can be competitive. They know, obviously they went on a playoff run. They know how to get it done. The big question is whether they still have the drive and can come up on the defensive end against the Avalanche, and my guess is they won't. So that's pretty cut and dried. And then you have the Wild versus the Golden Knights, and the Golden Knights have just are just have an embarrassment of riches in both forwards and goaltenders. They have Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury. So if one of them is not playing well or gets injured, they've got another number. They've got 2 number 1 goalies. Probably the best goaltending situation in the league. The Minnesota Wild have the rookie of the year in Kirill Kasparov. I'm not sure I pronounced that right. And they're loaded with veteran talent and a good mix of young players and veteran talent. Just a really tough draw. If the Wild were in another division, I feel like they could go a couple of rounds. But against either the Avalanche or the Golden Knights, I think they're doomed for a loss. And it would be fool's gold to go for a future with Minnesota. I think they're one of the longest shots at like 40-1. But, you know, in a short series, anything can happen. You know, you talk baseball or NBA or hockey, you know, they had these 7-game series and things can happen. But I don't feel like there's value on taking the Wild either in this series or in a Stanley Cup future. But minus 220 for the Golden Knights to win that series, that's a great number for them. If you wanted to lay that price to win the series, I feel like that's a pretty good number. And we'll have to see what their first game odds are. But that's it for the NHL playoff preview. I suggest you take a look between now and Sunday at the Stanley Cup futures, or look at the Game 1 matchups and see if you can find some value. I'm going to show you what I'm taking this weekend, and hopefully we can add a little to the bankroll here. So I'm going to take Crowded Trade in the Preakness, $2 on Win, Place, and Show. I'm just going to, have a little rooting interest in that. Nothing fancy. I feel like a horse that has that good of a speed figure has got to be competitive. And then on Saturday, to open up the playoffs, I'm taking the Capitals money line minus 104. These two teams opened up at minus 110 on each side. I feel like the Capitals are very underrated in this series, but once again, the Boston perfection line can cause you problems. And these teams have been a little chippy towards one another, so there could be some extensive power plays. And then on Sunday, I'm going to take the Lightning against the Panthers, minus 110, two Florida teams, even odds on both sides. But going with the better goaltender in Vasilevsky, and we'll have to see how it plays out. But I feel like on paper, the Lightning is the better team. So that's going to do it for today's show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have we should have a sportsbook lesson next week. We'll be in the NBA playoffs, and the NHL playoffs will continue. So we'll probably maybe do an NBA playoff preview, and then the week after that we'll have the Memorial Day races and all that kind of stuff. So enjoy the great weather we're having, and good luck with your wagers this week. And thanks for spending time with me. And I'll play the outro music for you, and let's go get some winners. Thanks, folks. Take care.